Finn's future is revealed in the Distant Lands episodes Obsidian and Together Again, and it's very tragic. But that begs the question, how did Finn get here? Well, it is confirmed that the episode Obsidian only takes place a few years after the finale. Come along with me.
But we also wanted to keep it sort of about them now, so it's like what their relationship would be like a couple years down the road.
And to give a little context, Come Along With Me shows that PB and the Kin Kingdom are getting ready to go to war with Gambaldia, who was made by PB's relatives. Nobody really wants them to go back to war, so Finn ends up stopping. Just as everything seemed back to normal, Golb arrives. After the whole showdown, Betty fuses with Golb and leaves, therefore saving the land of Ood. After that, we get a nice cinematic showing all the residents of Ood going back to their normal lives. The one we really want to point out, however, is when Finn and Jake are lying on the beach. Then, out of nowhere, the humans from Hub Island make their voyage back to the land of Ood, including Finn's mom, Minerva. Now, this is the last time we see Finn before his big reveal in Obsidian. So what happened? To better answer this question, let's first detail Finn's appearance in Obsidian. Finn appears as a grown-up now, taller, matured, facial hair, reflecting the years that have passed since we last saw him in Come Along With Me. Finn, along with Simon, Bronwyn, and the Banana Guards, joins in the ensuing celebration at the Glass Kingdom. You might have noticed that I didn't mention Finn's new tattoo of Jake across his chest. Well, while we're on the subject of making a mark, why not leave your own by hitting that subscribe button? No ink required. Now, about this intriguing tattoo, it's the first clue that could point us in a direction as to what happened to Finn during the period between Come Along With Me and Obsidian. You're not gonna like this, but Jake had died during this time, or at least the creators are pretty heavily pointing at. Now, why do I say this? Well, I think Uncivilized Elk said it best.
Jake is dead. I think that after Jake passed, Finn got this tattoo to honor the memory of his brother. Those flowers around Jake are forget-me-nots, and for me personally, that was all I needed to know. Jake's influence on Finn's life was monumental, and I know Finn would look back at that with utmost happiness.
You're a beautiful flower, and I love to watch you grow.
I like to believe that he's pretty spot on with this. The death of a close friend, particularly someone as significant as Jake was to Finn, would have undoubtedly left a profound impact on him. Finn probably had to navigate through grief, and perhaps even a sense of loneliness after losing his best friend and brother. In the aftermath of Jake's suspected passing, I reckon Finn would have sought comfort among those who knew Jake best. That's probably where Bronwyn comes in. Considering the not-so-rosy relationships Jake had with his kids, they might not have been Finn's first choice.
I'm gonna be frank here. Your son's a real-time Jingle Blaster.
But, as we all know, Bronwyn and Jake had a pretty good relationship. Their relationship was forged in the Wheels episode, and although the relationship was a bit rocky at the start, it ended amazingly, making Bronwyn the perfect person for Finn to connect with. In the face of grief, they would have been able to lean on each other, find comfort in shared memories, and navigate their sorrow together. I believe the presence of Bronwyn in Obsidian is a hint towards this. This shared journey brings us to consider Finn's emotional state. In Obsidian, Finn appears to be content, not brimming with happiness, but also not brimming with sadness, but exhibiting a sense of contentment and maturity.
That man's towel just blew off.
My bad.
This tranquility embodied in the tattoo of Jake and Finn's overall composed demeanor suggests Finn has gone through the stages of grief and has reached a point of acceptance. Now, don't get me wrong, this does not mean he's over the loss of Jake. In fact, far from it, but rather he's learned to carry that loss, to hold space for the sadness while also making room for joy, growth, and new experiences, just as Jake would want him to. From this vantage point, we can see his contentment might also signify the strength of the relationships he's built since Jake's passing. His bond with Bronwyn, for instance, likely provides a sense of camaraderie and mutual understanding that's both comforting and healing. All of this paints a picture of Finn not just surviving in the wake of tragedy, but finding a way to thrive. He's taken the raw deal life handed him and grown from it, finding peace in his journey and the circumstances of his life. In other words, Finn has become the embodiment of resilience between the time of Come Along With Me and Obsidian. But like the many layers of an onion, the narrative unfolds to reveal even more intricacies. In the opening sequence of Come Along With Me, we spot a grave that look like are marked Finn and Jermaine. no mention of Jake. This cast a shadow of doubt over the belief that Jake died before Finn. Is this just a simple oversight or a subtle clue that the story might have played out differently? Well, actually, I believe it's a lot more simple than you might think. And I think Jake still died before Finn did. Remember back to the finale, Come Along With Me? After Shermie and Beth find Finn's old prosthetic arm, they take it to the King of Ooh, which is now Bimo. After they ask Bimo who this arm belonged to, Bimo says,
Yeah, it belonged to my best friend. Fred.
Fred!
No, not Fred. His name was Phil.
Can you see where I'm getting at? Bimo outlived both Finn and Jake, and likely made those graves for both of them. And as we see in the finale, Bimo often forgets Finn and Jake's names, or at least Finn's name, which is kind of sad, but that could explain why it looks like it says Finn and Jermaine. Bimo had simply just messed up the name of Jake, or even mixed up Jake with his brother Jermaine. Not to mention, Bimo is already an unreliable storyteller and very imaginative. There are so many things pointing to the fact that Bimo probably just forgot Jake's name, or mixed him up with Jermaine. With this in mind, it takes us to speculate Finn's post-Jake life, and what happened to him further into the future. A bigger revelation coming from the Distant Lands episode, Together Again. Little spoiler warning if you haven't seen the episode yet, but Finn's appearance in Together Again is a rather startling contrast to his previous content demeanor in Obsidian. Decades have passed, and we see an aged Finn in a state of vivid hallucination, revisiting a reimagined narrative from his preteen years, filled with a mix of beloved characters and bizarre circumstances, including a dramatic, guilt-ridden moment where Jake melts into a grave marked R.I.P. Jake, a clear sign of Finn's unresolved feelings of guilt and sorrow. Brother, this very bond with Jake invites us to reconsider the hallucination that first ushers us into Together Again. It serves as a portal into an essential facet of Finn's journey, his mental state. Given his seemingly indifferent acceptance of Jake's death as depicted in Death, this hallucination, a distinct departure from Finn's usual steadfastness, exposes a profound internal struggle that had been lurking beneath the surface. Reflecting on this new perspective, it's conceivable that as time passed from Obsidian to Together Again, Finn's grief transformed, taking a darker path towards guilt. Perhaps he started to blame himself for Jake's death. This is all speculation, of course, but it seems plausible that Jake may have died in the act of protecting Finn, which is consistent with Jake's protective nature and deep love for his brother. In the immediate aftermath, Finn might have been able to rationalize it as Jake being a hero, but as the years wore on, it's likely that guilt crept in, intensifying his grief and leading to the sorrowful hallucination we see in Together Again. I'm not going to talk about the middle part of Together Again because you should really go watch it. It is so good. But I am going to be talking about the ending of Together Again. So again, spoiler warning. With that out of the way, Finn's future still awaits. Finn and Jake eventually reunite, and in the climactic moments of their journey in the land of the dead, Finn and Jake confront new death. After a conflict involving a talisman and an appearance by the Lich, the pair are in a position to potentially assume the mantle of death themselves. The intervention of Mr. Fox spares them from this fate as he manages to activate the Kiss of Life, eliminating new death and taking on the role himself. This climactic battle won, they parted ways with loved ones, including Joshua, Margaret, Jermaine, and Tiffany. Finn opens up to Jake about his feelings following Jake's death.
Jake, when you left, I kind of freaked out. It was the worst thing to ever happen to me. But deep down, I just kept waiting for the day I'd finally see you again.
Deciding to reincarnate, Finn sets off on a new journey, and after a moment of indecision, Jake decides to join him. With a final fist bump, the two find themselves together again. Their future, Shermie and Beth, well, maybe, but only time will tell.